Okay, so first things first, and I want to go ahead and just get this out of the way right now because I know some people may be wondering this. First thing I would like to show you, and this may not necessarily apply to everybody, depending on whether or not you're a new teacher or returning. But if you're looking for your courses from last year, I figure a lot of people might wonder where those are. So if you come to courses and you scroll down to all courses, and you go all the way down, you'll find this section called past enrollment. And there's where you're going to be able to find all your stuff from last year. So anything that you created last year that wasn't a manual course. So ones that you made are still going to be there. But any SIS created course is going to wind up in this past enrollment section. So if you need to go in there and grab out some assignments for this semester and get them all set up, that's where everything is. So also, newly generated SIS courses aren't here yet, but they are on their way. I can tell you that. We had a meeting with Canvas this morning, so I would assume they would be here shortly, without putting too fine a point on it. But they will be there definitely in plenty of time for the first day of school. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and I've got this course down here called My Blank Course. When you create a course or when they come in from SIS, either way, they're going to be down here in this section because they're unpublished. All right, and so if you remember, our big thing from last year is in order for the students to see it, it has to be published. As a teacher, you'll be able to see your own, but I have not yet published this one. So I've got this one right here, and I'm going to go ahead and publish it. When I do, you'll see it move up to the top. You can set up as much as you like inside of this prior to publishing. So if you're not feeling, that you want kids to see it yet, which is completely understandable, don't worry about it. They will not be able to see a thing until you hit this publish button. So work on it all next week, however you want to do it. When you're ready, then hit the button. If you want to wait till that very hour, that very section of class, feel free to go ahead and do that as well. Also, in the chat, I've placed a couple of links. One, in case you haven't logged into Canvas at all, just go to fc.instructure.com. And then second, you'll have a bit of a preview. I put my slideshow for the PD day in there. Now it's huge. It is big. It's 100 and some slides because it goes into some mind-numbing detail just to make sure that every little piece is captured. But it is there. I'm obviously not going to walk through 119 slides. I would never do that to anybody. But it is there in case you want it. It's sort of broken out with a little table of contents, so you don't have to worry about trying to find a specific spot in that giant slide. Okay. So with this here, I'm going to go ahead and publish it just to show you what that would look like. So I'll hit publish. And there's nothing in this course that's completely reset. Like I said, it's completely blank. So I'll go ahead and just choose course modules, and I'll hit choose and publish. But it doesn't like my home page. All right, so let's go in here. We'll just open it up from this side. Here, sure, why not? Okay. So by default, and I guess I should talk about some changes that are being made this year. But by default, you're going to have your modules page as your home page. Because of how things were last year, we got some feedback from teachers, we got some feedback from parents. So I want to let you know about some updates and some changes that we've made that are going to make things a little bit easier for you. First of all, you may notice that this link bar over here on the left-hand side, this is the course navigation. So you're going to find this navigation inside of every course. And you might notice that it's in a bit of a different order than it was last year. And that is because of the way that we had, teachers would have their course set up one way in one area, but they would go to math and it would be different there, and they would go to science and it would be different there. So what we decided to do is just sort of unify this. I'll go ahead and go into the student view, and we'll talk more about that later. I just want to give you an overview. So what you're going to see, and this one's a little bit different, but you're going to see that at the home, the people you have to hide on your own, the grades, the syllabus, and a few other things. Most of those are going to be hidden for the student, so you don't have to worry about those. And like I said, it'll be the same in every class. You as a teacher can change it if you want to, but in order to keep things a little bit more, what do they call it? Symmetrical. Not the word I was looking for. Unified. That's the word. In order to keep things a little bit more unified, we decided to set that up. Second, a little way to help things out. Remember, if you were here last year when you created an assignment, you would have to click sync desist on each one of those assignments for them to come over. That is now set by default, so you don't have to remember to do that. You only check it if you want to get rid of it. Okay. So that's our course navigation over here. Once again, looking over here to the further left, we got this area over here. This is our global navigation, and I believe I can annotate this right here. So this right here is our global navigation. And that's something that you're going to want to go into if you want to change your account settings. So like how often you get notifications, because you will get notifications for your assignments that you push out, for gradings and course content, that kind of thing. So you can come over here to account, go to notifications. That'll bring you to this screen over here. In this screen, you can go through, you can choose how often you get notified about whatever it happens to be. In this case, course activities, I'll get a weekly summary. Moving down further, you've got your admin. Most of you won't have that, but we've got our dashboard, which of course takes us to our dashboard. Give it just a second to get caught up. All right, so here I can see all my courses. In order to find those things from last year, like we talked about, I can go to courses, this guy out of the way, courses, all courses. And then when that pops up, you'll be able to scroll all the way down to the bottom and find those past enrollments. You'll have a calendar. Of course, your calendar is specific to your courses. So let me pull this guy up. I believe there's an 8 calendar limit on this thing, something like that. You'll see your calendars over here on the right-hand side. And obviously, I've got a lot of courses that I just sort of played around with. I created just to see what they would do. So I have quite a few mini calendars over here. But the ones that I want to show over here on the actual calendar, I can just click the little button to turn them on. If something's in there that I don't need, I can uncheck that box. If there's one that I want to get rid of entirely, I can come up to the 3 dots. Or actually, to get rid of it entirely, I need to delete the course. That'll get rid of it. But I can hide stuff. You can see I've got some stuff over here, and they're all color-coded. You can change those colors if you want. By the way, in case there are any questions, like I said, go ahead and put those in the chat here inside of the WebEx. Make sure that you don't send them just to me. Please send them to everyone. That way, in case I don't get a chance to see it, Nick will be able to see it, be able to respond to it, or I can back up if I need to. All right, moving forward, we have our inbox. Of course, this is a way you can communicate with your students. And then we have our help. We'll be talking a little bit more about the help later on. I got some little goodies that we put inside of there. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all of this. And I'll head back to the dashboard. And I'm going to jump into this course where I'm going to do most of my work. Okay. I want to go ahead and turn our attention to our modules. Now, modules, like I say, are your basic building blocks, okay? This is the way that we're going to organize our course. And no matter how you drive your students to the module page, whether you do it through a home page or whether you do it through other links, the module is the way that you're going to build out your course. All right, adding a module is very easy. Big blue button right here in the middle, or you can do it right over here on the side. Either one of them work just fine. So do it here, or you can do it up here. I'll go ahead and click this guy. And I'm going to give my module a name. First module. And I'll go ahead and add it. Let me clear these annotations out of the way. So if you notice here, I gave it the name of first module. You can name them anything you like. You can work through them any way you like, whether you want them to be sections or chapters, however. But I would consider taking a little bit of time to think about how you lay it out, because if you start with a way, it's really helpful for the students if you continue along that same idea. If you do it chapter by chapter, that's fine, but then continue to do it chapter by chapter. Our modules here but there's nothing in it. Okay, so as we start to lay these things out, we need to start adding content to our module. And we can do that in a couple of ways. The first way I can do it is I can come to the far right and I can click this little plus sign right over here. All right, so I can grab that guy. I can click plus, and you can see I can add any one of a different number of things. I can add assignments, quizzes, files, pages, all those sorts of things. I can add those all right here from this drop-down box. All right, this is one way of creating my content. So if I wanted to make an assignment, I could come down to this little button right here that says create assignment. And then it's going to ask me to give it a name. So I'll just call it first assignment. And I can add the item. Obviously, there's nothing inside of this yet. And we'll get to assignments in a second. But if you wanted to, you could build out your modules this way. I can obviously add more modules. This second module. And I can even choose, a third one. You can build these out as far ahead in advance as you would like, or you can just build them as you go through. You can see as you add them, it brings them down here to the bottom. Each new one that I add will go to the bottom. I can move these around. I can hit these three dots, and I can choose to move the module. These are my annotations. I can move this to the top if I'd like. I can move it before another one, so I'll just take it, move it to the top. All right, so now my third one is up there. The reason I say that the organization and a little bit of thought going into this is important is because if you look at one of my test ones, like this guy, and I go to the modules here, there's just stuff all over the place, right? So this is what you want to avoid, getting to December or getting to May and having just a whole mess of nonsense that your kids have to go through. We'll talk about how you can sort of clean this up a little bit for them, but still a little bit of a pound of, what do they call that? A penny of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I'm really bad at my idioms. Anyway, so once that's set up, I head back to my course here, and I'll go back to my modules. And you know what? Let's go ahead and start building out some of this content. Everybody doing well so far?
Have anything that has come through that yet?
Okay, looking good. I don't have anything in here yet. I do have an IM that came. Give me just a second. Oh, okay, good one. If courses were shared with me, where can I access those? So if a course was shared with you, chances are you'll have a little notification up in this area up here. You should see something around there. Even if you've already looked at it, you don't, that's fine. So then what you can do is you would be able to open that up and you would see shared content right down here. Click on that, and in here is where you would see whatever had been shared with you, and then you can import it, preview it, or remove it from this spot. So like I said, you should see a badge up there if it was shared, and then you just come down to shared content, and this is where you'll see all those things. All right. And back to the dashboard. Okay, so like I said, we were at our modules, and I wanted to point this out real quick. Remember, we did make an assignment right here. It's called First Day. I would just want to bring that to your attention because we're going to come back to that in just a second. The other part that we're going to come back to is these little boxes over here. Now, I'm sure many of you remember this from last year, but if you didn't get to play around with it, those are our published symbols, right? So if I were to go into Student View right now, which is a nifty little tool that you'll find at the top of every page, if I were to go into Student View, get rid of that box, and head over to the modules button. Well, you see, I don't even have one. I only have one because there's nothing published on that page, so the student can't even go there. So heading back to my modules. So in order for a student to see anything, I need to publish it. So I'll come over here, I'll click the little button that says publish. It turns green, lights everything up. And now if I were to be a student, come up here to go to my student view. No, I still wrecked myself because I didn't turn it on. Hang on a second. Okay, there we go. Now, if in my student view, I can see exactly one thing, right? And this is the only thing that I published. If I open up this first day, there's nothing in there, but I can still see it, okay? And remember, this student view is up there. That's a great way to check any of your courses to see what it's going to look like for the student. We'll pop in and out of there a couple of times during this. So from the home button, from my module here, you'll notice I've got my assignment, but there's nothing in it. If I were to go to my assignments tab, you can see I still have that assignment there. So each time I make something in the modules, it will still go to the appropriate tab here on the side. If I make a quiz, it'll show up here in the quizzes. If I make a discussion, it'll show up here in the discussions. If I make an assignment, it'll show up here in the assignments. And I can use these assignments to go ahead and do whatever I like. I can set them up, like I said beforehand or not. I can create them here, then bring them into a module, or vice versa. So let's see what that would look like. So here I am. I'm on the assignments page, and I'm going to add a new assignment. So I'll come to the right, big blue button. And I should close that for now. And there's my assignment template, right? So I'll call this second day because I already have one called first day. And then in this area down here, I can create whatever content I want my students to see, my directions, whatever they might be. So please tell me about your summer, whatever the case might be. The neat part about this is inside of this editor, and you'll see this editor in many places. It's very familiar to like a Word or something, a Google Doc or something like that. I have this little area here that gives me all the tools that I need to create my text, to create my instructions. So I can obviously highlight things, I can bold them, I can italicize them, I can underline them, right? I can change the font color. Oops. Or I can erase it accidentally. There we go. Which is now red. I can highlight things. You do want to be careful if you're going around with stuff like this, simply because, you have students who might have issues, with accessibility and that sort of thing. So you want to try and keep your colors from being too crazy on the page. But you can have a little fun to sort of highlight anything that might be important. You can obviously do that as well. Okay, we have our superscripts and subscripts for our math teachers or our science teachers. We have our links. Let me get that. We have our links over here. So let's take off all of this, shall we? Let's change this back to black. Let's visit Google, right? So with this, I could highlight this and I could create a link either externally to an outside website like Google. I just click on it. Okay, and that gives me my link there. I could do an internal link. So if I wanted to link to a page I already had or something like that, I could come up here, I could choose course links. And this is kind of a fun one because you can either open these up and find pages. Like if you have an individual page, you would want to link to an individual assignment, an individual quiz. You can see in my assignments, my first day is there as well. But if I want to just link to a certain page, I can come down to course navigation. And I can say, I'm going to link to the modules page. From there, I can highlight that, come down to course navigation, and choose modules. So that'll move me through there. I could insert an image, either upload one from my computer. And I can just, choose any one of these. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of mine. So I can pick something like that and I can stick that in there. All right, so that's an option that I have. I can put images in there. Let's make that a little bit smaller. I could use an image that's already in my course. So let's say that I had something I kept using. I could use that over there. I could even find some user images from my other Canvas accounts, or courses, I should say. All right, so there's my little profile picture. Moving over, I've got my media over here, which is really nice. I can choose this button to either upload or record some media. So if I had something on my computer, I could find that over here. Like if I had, I don't have anything in my videos folder. I do not. But if I did, I could find something on my desktop, or I can just go ahead and record one right here. So I'll hit record. It'll ask you to use my mic and allow, use my microphone. And there you can see, there's my smiling face. How's everybody doing? And I could start recording right here. Just get a little countdown. Hey, everybody, welcome to the first day of class, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You'll find everything you need below. If I like it, I can hit finish. If not, I can hit start over. And I will say, and Hannah pointed this out early, it doesn't always grab the best thumbnail. I'm not exactly sure how it chooses that, but I'll give it a name. I'll call it welcome back. I'll hit save. And it'll insert it right there inside of my assignment. So if there was something that you wanted your students to say or something that needed to be, better explained with a video than with words, that's obviously an option you could have. You're going to want to keep this pretty short. This isn't something that you're going to want to, have like a 25-minute video in there. But if you needed something real quick or a quick explanation, that'd probably be the best way to do it. Okay, obviously, moving on. If you're thinking about YouTube, that's a little bit down further. This is for your own one right here. We got YouTube in a second. Oops. From there, you can upload documents. So if you had, something that you would scan or something that you want them to work on, a PDF, whatever the case might be, you could upload it here. You could use the course documents, and of course, you can use documents in your account that you've used in other courses. Here we've got our upload and embed image. This is something that I got. So mine's set up a little bit different, so I'm going to go ahead and skip that. But just know that, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel that. Just know that you can upload and embed images from here. You can get to your Google Drive from here. The first time it's going to ask you to authorize it. So I'll go ahead and authorize it. And it might take just a second. Okay, so when you do that, you get insert Google Files from your drive. So I can choose any one of these. I'll just take this agenda. I'll stick it in there. Okay, so now I've got this Google Doc in there. I can come down further and I can come down to the plugins. So once again, there's another plugin from there. I can choose YouTube. Just choose fishing. All right, so I can embed a YouTube in here just by clicking the embed button. I'll go ahead and cancel that. And then I have my formatting bar. So I could just, my text. I could highlight this. I could format it to the center, to the right. I can add a bullet points if you don't delete it. And again. There we go. Second line. Et cetera, they'll stay there. And then finally, as we move on, we have the ability to indent things just like Word. I could move that in a couple different levels. I could play around with the text. I could make myself a table. I could add in rows above it, or I could delete it. Basically, I can work through this in any way that you would normally work through any sort of editor. Okay, so the reason I spent that much time on it is because you'll find this editor in each and every single one of the places where you can add information. You'll find this on your pages. You'll find this in your assignments. You'll find this in your discussion boards. Unique to assignments, as you come down, of course, is the point value. So you have to choose how many points a particular assignment is worth. We'll talk about assignment groups a little bit later on. How you want to display the grades, I just keep them as points. And then your submission type. This is probably where you're going to make most of your changes, whether you want it to be no submission, an online one. So let's say that I wanted a text entry and a file upload. I could do a media recording. I could have them submit a website URL, student annotation, any of those things. I can come down here and I can choose how many attempts are allowed. So unlimited attempts, or do I want them to just do it once, twice, 3 times, whatever the case might be. So I'll choose unlimited. Group assignments and peer reviews are a little bit more outside of a basic part of it, but we can talk about those a little bit later on if we have time. Down here, this is one of the cool things that we made this year is this guy. This is the sync to SIS button. So all your assignments by default will be synced to SIS. That does not mean that they're going to go over automatically, but that does mean that they will be prepped to go over automatically. You will still have to go into SIS and hit the sync button. Now, if for some reason you made something in here that you did not want to have go to SIS, you simply uncheck the button. But why would we have that in there? Why is that important? Because if you recall, from last year, if you were here, SIS is the grade of record. So that's one of those things that's sort of important to remember and to realize that if you have some things in Canvas, but let's say that you also do some things outside of Canvas, maybe participation points, or maybe you have them give a speech, or maybe you have them sing a song, whatever the case might be. That might not be something that you put inside of Canvas. You might put that directly inside of SIS. So that's why we always want to drive our kids towards SIS to see their actual grades. It doesn't matter what it says in Canvas. It matters what it says in SIS. But this was, since the majority of things in Canvas do go to SIS, most teachers want those over there, we have this checked by default. And then we come down to our Assign To box. Now, the Assign To box is its own little thing. So I can obviously choose everyone. If I have more students in here, I could take this out and I could say just student demo gets it, right? Maybe I have 1 or 2 students who need this while the rest of them do not. I could differentiate some things in here, and there's some easier ways to do that. But if you just have 1 or 2 kids, the easiest way is to just come down here and click in this box, find those students in here. If you leave it at everyone, well, then it's going to go to everyone. And then we've got our due dates and our availability dates. These confused a few people last time. So let's talk about these real quick. The due date is the date that it is due. Just like you would say to any student, it's due on Friday, and that's when it's due. But you might say, well, I take late work, and that's fine. That comes down here to the until date. So if it's due on Friday, let's just say it's due next Friday. Oh, Friday the 13th. Who would have thought? Okay. So let's say it's due on Friday the 13th. The available from date is when the students can first see it. So that would be today. And you can see I can put in times. But my until is when they can still work on the project. So let's say I gave them this assignment. It's due on Friday the 13th, but I'll take it all the way up until next Friday. So I can come to this calendar and I'll choose the 20th. This says that my students can still see and submit that assignment all the way up until the 20th. On the 13th, it's going to mark it late at midnight. 11:59, when that time passes, if that student hasn't submitted an assignment, it's going to show up as late. But they can still work on it. You can still accept it, and they can still see it up until the 20th. After the 20th, they will no longer be able to open the assignment and submit it unless you go in and change that, right? So that's something that you have. If you have different groups of kids, you can always come back here and hit this add button. So this assigns it to everyone. Let's say, I just want to do this section here, just that one kid. Then I'd come back and hit add, and we could do this section another time, right? And this is going to have a completely different set of due dates and availability dates that will all change depending on the student.
Scott, we have a question.
Sure.
If you assign something to only a few students, does everyone see the assignment?
So only the students who are assigned that assignment will see the assignment. That's hard to say, but yeah. So if I have a student and only one student gets that, then the remainder of the students will not see that. Okay, and we can actually show that because with our test students, so I just have student demo here, right? And the name of this one is second day. Well, just remind me, I'll show you that in a second. I'm going to go ahead and save or save and publish. You have two different options down here. So if I hit save and publish, it's going to say, hey, not all sections will be assigned this. And this is because I just showed you, I just assigned it to this one kid. So nobody else is going to see that. So if I hit save and publish, you know what, we'll go ahead and we'll give it to everybody so I don't trip myself up later on. Okay, and here's what my assignment looks like for the teacher. So you can see all the stuff that we added up here. You can see my agenda that we put in there. You can see the table that we put down there. As the teacher, I can see what's going on over here. Okay, due for one student at this time, due for everyone else at this time. And remember, I just put in that box the same. From the student view, they'll see essentially the same thing, right? They'll see all this stuff down to here. But you will notice, and this is something that has changed, Canvas moved all the information about what was important about this assignment up to the top. So put the due date up there, the point value, what you're submitting, and more importantly, the start assignment. So this is new this year. I think they rolled it out over the summer, but new this year is the start assignment button. It no longer says submit. It no longer says, I forget what the other one used to say. They all say start assignments, and they're all up here. So some of your kids might be used to looking down at the bottom. Now they just look at the upper right-hand corner, look for the big blue button, and that's where they're going to find it. Okay, not going too fast. I think everyone's doing okay. All right, sounds good. So that is the different types of assignments that, that is a different assignment that we have here. If I go back to my assignments, I can, like I say, I can continue to add them through here. But if I go back to my modules, you'll see that only that first one that we created inside of the module is there. You might be like, what gives? So to get that second assignment that we made, I'm going over to the plus. And here you can see as you flip through these different ones, each assignment that you make will show up here under assignment. So I can click add item. And now they both show up there. So now when my students go to that module on the dashboard, this is what they're going to see. So if I go to student view, and I go to home, and let's get rid of this ring. There you go. This is what my kids will see. It also popped up here over on the side, a nifty little to-do. And if, as a student, I go to the course calendar, I can see this right here. Why does only the second day show up? Because it's the only one with a due date, right? The first one, we just made a shell, but we didn't put anything in it. We didn't put a due date in it. We didn't put any content. So the reason only one shows up here is because we only technically made one, even though I should have gone back before I did this, even though I technically have 2 assignments. Right, this first one here, you can see, and I can, with a real quick glance, I can see, okay, this one's got, it's in the first module, it's got multiple due dates, and it's worth 20 points. This one is just a shell of nothing. There's nothing inside of here. So if I were to go through and add some content, no. I'll just put some stuff in here real quick. All right. You know, just to have something in the boxes. Now you can see if I were to go back to the student's calendar, now they both show up. Okay, so going back to the dashboard, student view. Okay, I know that was sort of a long-winded talk about assignments and the different types that there are. Is everybody okay, I think? Okay, sounding good. So let's talk about the different types of content that we can put inside of here. Obviously, we looked at our assignments real quick. Many teachers like to use announcements. So let me go ahead and just go through that real quickly. If I choose my announcements from up here. Currently, I don't have any announcements. So of course, I'm going to come to the right-hand side. I'm going to find that big blue plus button. And you'll see I get the same rich context editor that I had in the other one. I get my topic title, so I'll just call this one Welcome Back. And just as with the assignments, and just as you'll see with everything else, I can put whatever I want inside of here. I can put images, I can put text, I can put videos, I can put tables and paragraphs and headings and that kind of stuff. I'll just change this to a heading. And I'll say, welcome back to the first day. And then I come down here. And I can go in through there and finish making this as pretty as I would like. When I get done with that, I'm going to come down to the sections. So which section is this going to go to? If you have more than one, this is my blank course, so it's going to go to everybody. All sections. If I want to, I can upload a file that, to attach this. So if I had, I don't know, maybe something I wanted them to fill out or a link to a Google, well, if I would have a link to a Google form, I put it up here. But if I had maybe, I don't know, like maybe what they call it, like a physical, if this was a thing where a kid had to have a physical or so, maybe I could attach that there. I can delay the posting, so I could write this beforehand, but I say, don't put this out until whatever date and time I wish. We're going to do it immediately, though. Students could post to it if you wanted them to. I still have not been able to find a use for the podcast feed, but there it is. And of course, you can allow the kids to like it if you want. So I'm going to take this, pretty simple right here, and I'm going to hit save. Okay, so this is what my announcement looks like. And if I go to my student view, and I go home, I'm going to see that this announcement is here. Okay, so this the smaller part of the announcement shows here sort of like a headline, and then when I click on it, it brings me to the full announcement, anything that I want to be in there. By default, you will have your most recent 3 announcements on your homepage. So if you make an announcement, you're going to have 3 of them stack up here, and then if you put a 4th one in, the first one you made will drop off. So it'll just keep rolling those most recent 3 assignments. I'm sorry, announcements, my bad. All right, let me go ahead and leave student view. I took care of the announcements real quick. Those are really good. I saw a lot of teachers use them last year for when there were snow days and that kind of stuff. Important information that you want to grab your students' attention on. If you use one every day, they're going to sort of overlook it. But if there's, something different, if you change the heading to make it red or type in snow day or AMI day is what they're called now, depending for most of them, you can put that up there and put whatever information you want. So it's all about keeping the students' attentions. And, if you have one up there every day and you train them to look for it, that's awesome. But if you put one up there, just like once, and then you change it, they're really going to notice that. Okay, so on my homepage here, as the teacher, you can see I've got these other modules over here. So let's just put something in them so we can put something in. I'm going to make another assignment and just going to be a shell. Call this one third day. And you know what? On this one, I'm going to indent it just a little bit to sort of offset it. Now, here's a neat little thing that you can do. So let me go ahead and publish this. And you'll notice when you publish a module, it publishes everything in there by default. You can still turn it off if students have not submitted anything. If a student has submitted anything to an assignment, you cannot turn it off. You'll have to shut off the whole module and hide it from there. But you still have this, and you can, of course, move them around. You can move things in and out of these modules just by grabbing these handles on the side. For whatever reason, you might need to do that. Okay, so let's take a look at this example. I've got my second module here. The assignment is published, but the module is not. Do you think the student's going to see that? Let's check. So if I go there, the student does not see that module. He does not see the assignment inside of it. Once again, that's because the module itself is not published. So I saw that happen a lot, but that's also a good thing. Like I said, you cannot unpublish an assignment that a student has already submitted to. But if you have a bunch of, you've gone through the first module and you don't need that on the dashboard anymore, that's fine. You can just unpublish it, the module itself. The assignments are still published. The kids can still see kids won't see them on the dashboard. But if they go back home, now you'll see the second module shows up and the first one does not. So that's an easy way to help control whatever content the kids see. And that will really help clear this area up, especially if you're using the homepage as your modules. Take a quick drink here. Okay. So we've talked about, let me go ahead and leave student view. There we go. So once again, as a teacher, I can see all the stuff in here. Let's go ahead and talk quickly about pages. So what is a page and why would we have them? So pages are very much, if I create a new page, you'll see they look an awful lot like the assignments do. They look an awful lot like the announcements do. Pages are for things that you want your students to have access to, but they're not going to send things back to you. So if you have information, if you have a set of resources, if you have a syllabus that you want to put up there, although they do have their own syllabus tab. So, but if you had, an agenda or anything like that, that you wanted the students to keep and have, but not necessarily submit anything to, that's where you would use a page. So for this, you can call this my page. I'll call it start here. All right. And then on here, you could be like things. You could have class rules. You could have a list of MLA resources. You could have links to videos that you would want them to see. You can have all those things that you just don't want them to resubmit back to you. On mine, I'll just put some class rules, right? Rules. Yeah, be respectful. And don't throw stuff. As a former shop teacher, don't throw things was probably my number one. Don't throw stuff, okay? So you can have this here. You could allow students to edit this. I don't recommend that because there are other ways of doing it. But if you wanted to make like a wiki, this is the thing that you could use. I'm going to leave this as only teachers. And I'm going to, once again, going to save and publish this. And you're like, okay, what should I do with this? So if I wanted this to be something my students saw, I'm going to come over here to my first module. I'm going to turn it back on because remember we turned it off. I'm going to move it into the right spot. And I'm going to come to the plus. I'm going to choose page. This is the only page I've created. Once again, I could create a new one from here, but this is the only one I've made. I'll click add item. So now I can start to see that organization take place in my modules, right? Let's move the third one down to where it goes. Let's pop into the student view to see what this looks like. Okay, good. Now as a student, I can see, okay, maybe I want to take this page and move that to the top. Sort of wasn't paying attention on that. There we go. So now from here, I can take this, I can look in, I can say, okay, my page, start here. I'm going to read through this. It tells me what to do. I've got a next button down here. It's going to bring me to my first day assignment. I would go through, write my essay. From there, I would hit next. I would go through my second day one, come down here, start my assignment. And I don't know, with this, I'll just do a text entry, you know, like I had fun. Right, submit assignment. And that's a really cool thing about the student view. Using the student view, it basically creates a fake student in the course. So I can act just like any one of my kids in here. I can make a new attempt because remember I said I could have unlimited attempts. I can see that it was submitted. I can see when it was submitted. I can even see some details about it. Okay. We're going to need that a little bit later on when we start grading things. I'll just go ahead and leave the student view again. Now, like I say, with the pages, very important part of it, things that you're not going to want them to put back, but any sort of, you know, like things that you would normally put in a Word doc and pass out, you can put in here. So that is something that you can use to help organize your class, to help put things through it. Inside of those modules, like I said, it's the building blocks, so we're going to be going back there a lot. You can also make, if I go back to my little plus button, this header. And like, what is the text header? And the text header is just a separation. You know, if you're finished on this. So here I have just another text header, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in a couple of blank assignments in here just to get some content. And I'll put in another one. Okay. And I'll go ahead and make sure that these are published. So the text header is nothing more than a way to separate content inside of the module. So just to show you what that would look like, I've got my module here. Inside of that module, I've got this part. You can't click on it. It doesn't do anything. It's literally just there to separate this top portion from the bottom portion. But it is very good if you have modules where you have maybe some open-ended stuff or you have, you know, a lot of differentiation going on. You could say, okay, everyone's got to do all the stuff up here. But if you have extra stuff, you can put that down in here. Maybe not all the kids are going to get to this part. Maybe it's extra credit, maybe whatever. You can put all this stuff down here underneath this little separator, and it just sort of helps break up the content so the kids know what they're looking at. All right, once again, I'll leave the student view. And then we'll take a look at our quizzes. Now, here's the really cool thing about quizzes. A couple of things I guess we should know. First of all, if I open up one of these modules, let's put it inside of here. Let's turn it on. As before, I can make my quiz from inside of here. I don't have any that I've made, so when I click Create Quizzes, new to Canvas this year, I get the choice to either make a new quiz or a classic quiz. So whichever one of these that I need to use, I can, you know, if I want to go with the classic quizzes, I can do that. If I want to stay with the new quizzes, I can do that. There's a lot of confusion about the classic quizzes going away, which is still true. We have a year, basically. That's what Canvas is still telling us. So they still say it's going to be July of 2022. If you're more comfortable using the classic quizzes, that's what you used last year, there's no one going to come and make you use the new one, right? You can continue to use those. And then at the end of the day, in July of next year, matter of fact, Canvas has a migration tool. So if you have a bunch of classic ones, or maybe you imported a bunch of classic ones from the Commons area or from another teacher, whatever the case might be, you will have the ability to migrate those to a new quiz when the time comes. You'll have plenty of notification. And like I said, right now, the last day to make one is July 2022. But that doesn't mean they're going to completely disappear. I believe you'll be able to use them until December of 2022. So you'll have a little bit of time to migrate things back and forth. No one's going to just shut them off on Tuesday, and that's going to be that. Which one would I use? I like the new quizzes myself, and I like them because of the way I can create item banks. So let's go ahead and open these up. I'll just call this item banking. All right. Okay, and I'll open this up. The thing that I really like about this, I can set my points, and of course I can go back and edit this, due date, and all that kind of stuff. Available until here. You can see on this one I've got a build, so I'm going to go ahead and choose build. And now I can go through, here are my instructions. Start this quiz. Oops, quiz. And when I'm ready to start adding questions, I can come down here to the blue plus. What kind of question is it going to be? Is, multiple choice, matching, multiple answer. The only gotcha with this right now, multiple answers still does not give partial credit. So I believe they're working on that, and I believe it's going to come soon, but I don't have a time. Also, a little insider information for you. In the fall, you'll be able to print a new quiz. Now, I haven't put any of that information out yet because right now it's literally just says in the fall. So I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know if it's September. I don't know if it's December. But I do know that they are currently working on a print to quiz or printing a new quiz feature. So that might sway your decision one way or the other too, depending on how the school year goes and how many of these you might need to print out. And that depends on how the kids in your class and what sort of modifications they might need. All right, but anyway, I would put in my multiple answer and I'd be like, which of these is a state of matter? And that's the title of it. So I'm just going to duplicate that down here. Oops, but you do have to hit Control V, Scott. And I'll put solid, liquid, gas. Check that guy. And then I don't know, lava. Okay, so I've got those. You can do, to an extent, a partial credit with penalty. And you can learn a little bit more about that here. Okay, that works. Sometimes just unplug it. But you can also have an exact match. You can shuffle the choices. You can show on-screen calculators, that kind of stuff. And there are ways to set this up default as well. But you can do it question by question if you wanted to. You can come down here and say how many points it's worth. You can talk a little bit more about feedback. And that gets a little advanced. These are not things that you have to do. I just want you to know that they're there. And then you can hit done. Now, here is the one reason that I prefer classic new quizzes over classic quizzes is this item bank. So if I come to this item bank, and I'll just come to my institution banks, actually all my banks. I have a bunch in here because I'm part of the admin side, so I got added to a bunch of courses that weren't mine to teach. Yours would have all of your actual, teacher ones that you created, but you can share these. So I can come over here and I can click on this and I can share this item bank with another teacher. All these questions that somebody else had written, maybe somebody in my department, maybe somebody at the district level had written these, I can share these out. And then I can import all of these directly into my course. And the cool thing about it is if you have enough of these, you can even start doing things. Let me go ahead and manage my item banks. Sorry, I had to set something up there. I can come down here. I can click on plus to add a new question. And I can pull up my item banks. And then I can say, okay, I'm just going to grab this one. I can bring in all of these. And then I can randomize what the students use. Actually, there's only 2 questions here, so I can't do that. But if I had more than one, this is only questions 2 and 3, I could randomize how many, what the kids got. I could shuffle it around so that each student is having a different question and also getting them in a different order. So if I have, I don't know, a 50 question item bank, but I only have a test that has 25 questions on it, it's going to pull randomly. That's going to give me a little bit more of an authentic kind of result there. All right, so I've got some of these. I'm just going to go ahead and remove this one, the item. So I've got these all set up. I can preview what it's going to look like for my kids if I want to. And maybe this is what you want, maybe it's not. So let's go back and take a look. Inside of here, I can also come up to this settings. And inside of these settings, I get a bunch of different things that I can use. I can shuffle my questions, shuffle the answers, of course. I can choose one question at a time so that students will only see one question. That's really great for students who have trouble focusing. You know, instead of giving them just a wall of questions, you can give them one question at a time. Do you want them to be able to go backwards? If you're a kid like me, sometimes the answer to one question lies in the question of another one, right? So you go back there and you're like, oh, that was wrong. You go backwards and you change it. If you want them to not be able to do that, you can do that here. A student access code, you can play around with that. It's not something that I think is really super necessary. It complicates things a little bit more than it needs to be. If you want a time limit, you can put the time limit in here. Here's the thing about the time limit. It does, once it starts, it starts. So you're not going to start a time limit and then the kid's going to go home and finish it. But here is something that you might want to consider. Like for those of you who might have a split lunch or something like that, if you have a time limit on there, you'll need to set it for long enough for the kids to be able to go to lunch and come back. Filter IP address is not really something that we need to worry about. Whether you want them to have a calculator, a basic or a scientific one. And this is, you know, for the entire thing. You can do that one on a question by question basis as well. And then if you want them to allow for multiple attempts, then what do? Do we keep the highest score, the average, last first, how many attempts? And then do they have to wait in between? Or can they just, you know, power through it over and over? And then finally, we can restrict what the kids see as far as the result. You know, show points, showing points possible, show items, and the response and the feedback maybe, right? So we have that. Moving across the top, we've got our reports. Now this sort of threw people off a little bit last year. If you want to see your outcomes, well, there's not going to be anything in here because nobody's taken it. But you'll be able to find the reports and an item analysis up in here. And this is really super helpful for a teacher side. If you notice that in your class, all the kids missed all the questions about graduated cylinders, then this would be you'd be able to come over here and you'd be able to see, you know, question number 5 about graduated cylinder, they all messed up. You know, they all got it wrong. So you're like, okay, maybe I need to go back and spend some more time talking about it. I need to go back and, you know, change my materials, whatever. Then again, if you see, you know, everyone's acing something, and you're like, okay, I've got this subject covered and I can move on to something else. Then we've got our moderate. Now, this is really going to be helpful for IEPs, for students with modifications, for the special ed community. If I come over here to moderate, and I've only got my student demo in here, but after a quiz has been taken, you can see how many attempts they had, the score, the time. You can see when they logged in and out, you know, where they visited, all that kind of stuff in here. Under this accommodations, if I click this, There's only a couple that I have that I can use, but they are the common ones. So in this case, time adjustments. So I could give additional time. Or let's say I had a timer for everybody, but a certain kid doesn't get a timer. So I could take that out. I could multiply the time by twice as long. So instead of, 20 minutes, he gets twice as long, so he gets 40 minutes. And it says these settings will be applied to all course assessments for the students. You'll only have to do it once. If Susie gets a time multiplier of 2, double the time, you only have to set it up here one time, and then they'll get the same multiplication throughout the rest of this course. Not through the rest of the students' courses, just the rest of yours. So all the quizzes that you make will have that multiplier, but if they go to Spanish, they're not going to have that. All right, and then you've got the moderate tab where you can just sort of see a little bit more about each attempt that was made. I know that was a lot, but you should feel pretty confident with these because you can sort of walk through them. If you hit return, it brings you back to your actual module here. All right, so I've got that. And once again, for my kids to see it, I go to publish. With what I have set up, I can go to my student view. I go to item banking. All right, I'll begin my test. And once again, this is what it looks like for a student. I'm going to get one of these wrong on purpose. All right. I don't even know what any of that means. I picked something that I'm not smart enough to answer. So I'll just put in cheeseburger. Obviously, this is an essay question. Oh, we got some probability and some statistics here. The only thing I remember about that is the sum of squares. That's sad. All right, sum of squares. I know some of you are probably shouting at the computer screen right now, being like, "It's so easy," but I've forgotten all of that stuff. When I'm done, I hit submit. Tells me I can't change my answers. It auto grades it because this is an auto graded one. And it tells me that 2 questions require grading because they were essay questions, right? I can't figure that one out on its own. So it tells me what I got going on. And then at the end, it tells me, oh, it's not going to give me a score because 2 of them still need to be graded. So, but now I can leave my student view. All right, interesting. A little crash. I'm doing a little too much here. There we go. Best laid plans. Okay, but now that that's taken, I can go back to my grades and we can start talking about the grades. Is everyone feeling pretty good on those quizzes so far? Like I said, I ran over real quick.
I just have a question about modules.
Okay.
So if modules were created last year, will they be visible when I publish a course? Do I need to unpublish each one?
I believe, and we can test this if you want to stick around to the end, but I believe they're going to come across as unpublished, and you'll just publish them as you go along. So, you know what? Let's test it right now. Just have a little bit of fun. I've got some stuff in here. Let's try. Let's see what's in my dashboard. So we'll pick the IT Essentials one. Okay. So, and actually this would be a good thing for everybody to see anyway. Let's talk about bringing stuff into my course. So I've got my blank course that I've been working in. You're like, Scott, it's already got stuff in it. Not a big deal. You can still bring stuff in. So come down here and I'm going to go to, where am I going to go? Import existing content right over here on the side. And I get content type. What kind of content? I'm going to copy a Canvas course. I'm going to go to plus IT. This is the bad part because sometimes you got to remember exactly what you named it. I don't remember, so let's open it up. Right here and go to courses. Courses, I thought it was a star IT. That's oh, 3 stars. I sometimes put stars in there to help me. There you go, IT Essentials. Okay, make sure you got the include completed courses, otherwise it won't bring those over. And I'm just going to go with all content. We're going to bring over everything. And I'll hit import. And this is going to take a second. You can see it's got queued. The bigger the course is, the longer this is going to take. So it says queued right now. You give it a second, it'll flip over to say running. And then a little bit after that, it'll actually, you'll see this little marching bar go across the bottom of the screen. You can leave this page as well. You don't have to sit here and watch it. So I do like to sit there and give it a second to flip over. And right now I know they're doing some work inside of Canvas, like on the back end. So that might be slowing things down just a touch. So we'll go ahead, we'll keep this in the back of our minds and we'll check back in on it later to see how things go. Okay, so let's talk quickly about grades. Well, we'll come back and we'll check on that in a second. Let's talk quickly about grades. So here inside of the grades tab, I can see the grades for my students. Now, I know we talked a little bit about this last year, but as a refresher, what we want to have happen is we want our students to be able to see what they scored on an exam, of course, or what they got on a particular assignment, but we don't want them to see totals. All right. And the reason we don't want them to see totals, like we talked about before, we want to drive our kids to SIS and make sure that the parents and the students are all using what SIS says, because it doesn't matter what Canvas says, it matters what SIS says. That's the one that gets sent to the state. That's the one that goes on transcripts. So here I am inside of my gradebook. You can see I've already got some stuff in here populated. I've got my test student, and you can see I've got some weird little symbols in here. So let's talk about what these mean. So with this weird little symbol, what it's telling me is that there is a submission, but it hasn't been graded yet. Right? And if you remember, I believe this is my what do we do in the summer one, right? So the student turned it in, but I haven't graded it. Now, if I'm just giving everyone a 20 just for doing it, I can come in here and do that. But that's not really what I want to do. All right. You can see I've got all my published or my assignments over here listed in order, and I've got my assignments and totals over here. I'll show you what this looks like for a student in just a second. So first things first, let's take a look at the gradebook. If you can do an individual view. This isn't the easiest to do when you're trying to get through your stuff, but it is something that you can do. There we go, up here. Go back to Gradebook. There we go. But you could do the individual view if it was helpful. You can also see any history. So if you have maybe a student teacher helping you grade things, or if you're like, where did that score come from? I don't remember changing it. You can go back into the gradebook history and see if there's none in here. But you can see, what happened and when. I can move over to my view, and here you can change how you see it, whether it's by assignment name, A to Z, Z to A, the due date, the points, or the modules. So if you have it set up the right way, this might be, a couple of different things. You can put in filters. You can filter by assignment group. You can filter by the module. I want to do, second module, right? You could view it by, sections, if you have more than one section. So if you cross list, you have two or three sections put together, you could use that. And it looks like some of that stuff has come in. So let's run back over to our modules page and see. There it is. So I imported all that stuff. And it does appear that all that stuff came over in the exact condition that it was in. So these things that are in here, I had these published. So yeah, you'll have to unpublish the modules. You will not necessarily need to unpublish each assignment, because if you hide the assignment tabs, the kids won't be able to see it. And the assignment tab is hidden by default. So there you go. So now if I go to my student view, I still only see those handful of things instead of seeing everything. But student view. But yeah, so it does look as if you'll need to go back through and unpublish what you don't want. There's a couple ways to work around that, and if you want to open up a ticket when we're done, we can talk about that ourselves, so that you're not, yeah, a bunch of stuff down here too. There we go. Let's take that off. Take this off and this off. And go back to our student view. There you go. Okay, so this is what the kids see. You will need to, if it was published when you were done, then yeah, it looks like you'll need to unpublish them when you bring in course content. That was something I hadn't thought about, so that was a very good question. Anyway, back to our grades. I was wondering why I had all those modules over here all of a sudden. I forgot I brought that stuff in. Anyway, the cool thing is, if you look at my gradebook now, I've got all kinds of stuff in here. And a lot of them, especially if you're a teacher who likes to work ahead, are going to be unpublished. So you're like, I don't want all this messing up my gradebook, especially if you bring all the stuff in and you don't have any dates assigned to it. So you're not going to be able to filter by a term. But what you can do is you can filter, come down here and go to columns. So under view, columns, choose unpublished assignments. Unpublishing that will get rid of all the assignments that are not actually published. It doesn't have 1 for, and of course, like I said, when the filters are in there, you can do it by assignment groups or by terms, but we don't have that set up in a test account like this. So unfortunately, we won't be able to see it. Okay, so like I was talking about, we've got these strange little icons in here. This means that a submission has taken place, but it has not been graded. This one does have a grade. And I got my things at the end. But what does this look like for a student? You know what? Let's go ahead and do this. If I come over, so I've got the student demo, and I want to show this to you. This is a real live fake kid. I'll come down, got my blank course. So as the student, because this is, it brought all this stuff over because I imported the whole course. It overwrote a couple of things that I had. My modules is no longer my home page because in my IT Essentials class, this was my home page. So that's why it looks like that. But if I go to my announcements, there's my announcements. If I go to my modules, on my home page, there's my modules. You can see this mirrors exactly what I have in my test course, right? So I've got this guy over here on the right. No, not him. Wrong one. Sorry, I have a couple of these open. I have this one over here on my right, and I have this one over here on my left. Even though I see as a teacher on the left-hand side, I see all this. As a student, this is a real-life student in the course, this is all that he sees over here. For the grades, and here are all those grades that I had due dates for. So if you do bring over your course content that wasn't in a sandbox, you're going to need to go through and change some of those course dates as well. That's not a hard thing to do. Put in a work order. Hannah or I will be more than happy to walk through that with you. But what I wanted you to see as far as the grades go is exactly this. So you can see the way that this is set up. If I come all the way to the bottom, you can see that I don't, for the assignment groups, the test, the classworks, this all says NA because these are groups of assignments, a group of tests. So if I had it turned on the proper way, it would say all the tests and would take an average of that. It would take all the ones that were classwork and make an average of that. It would take all the semester's exams and make an average of that. I don't want this total down here to be seen. And like I said, this is now based on default, so you don't have to change anything to make this happen. I want to drive the kids to SIS to see this. But for the actual courses themselves, the actual assignments themselves, the kids will be able to come up here and see what's turned in and what isn't. So my hands-on work, I have not posted that grade, but out of 50. This one is missing. This one is also missing. If it was late, the late tags would show up here as well. So not just missing, but late. If you want to find the best way for your parents to see what their students have and what they don't have, when the parents are observers, they'll be able to see this page as well. So drive them over to the grades tab, and they'll be able to see exactly what's missing, what's there, and what they should have, what's missing and what they need to make up. And then, of course, it's up to you as the teacher to decide what you're going to take. Okay, so that is a great deal of the gradebook right there, but that's not everything. Real quick, let's go back to our grades. I want to point out this gear over here on the right-hand side. So this gear, I can open this gear up right over here. And here I have some options. So if you want to apply a grade for missing submissions, you're going to say, okay, I'm not going to give them a 0 because, maybe that's hard to come back from. Or maybe they have a modification that prevents that. So if it's missing, they're still going to get 10%. If you want to do that, that's there. That's awesome. If not, just uncheck it and leave it alone. If you want to apply deductions for late submissions, you can do that here. It's going to be 5% a day, and go all the way down to 50%. All right. So when those assignments come in, Canvas will look at the due date. Remember, that's different than the availability date. But then it'll calculate how many days late it is, and with this, you get no lower than a 50. And then we have our grade posting policy. So if you want the kids to be able to see the grades as soon as you enter them, then you can choose automatically post grades. If you want to manually post grades, then grades will be hidden by default. And it says right here, anything that I've already posted will still stay visible. And then you'll have to choose in each column when to post it, right? So since we have the totals hidden, it's perfectly fine to have this to automatically post grades. But if I didn't, it would be here on this drop down. It would have post grades right here. You can download all your submissions, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about grading some stuff. So remember, we had this submission here. I'm going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and go to our assignments from a teacher side. Go to my assignments. And I'm going to go to that second day. Remember, this is the one that the little tell us what you did. Okay, so you can see that it's been submitted. I have one submission that I haven't graded. So let's go to the Speedgrader and take a look at it. Okay, so here inside of the Speedgrader, you can see the student didn't really put a whole lot of effort into this one. I had fun. Sometimes that happens. So I have a couple of choices. I can come over here and I can simply grade it. All right, I can hit submit and be done with it. I could leave a comment in here, and I can attach a comment. I can attach like a file. So let's say I had a rubric that was in Word. I can put that in here. Oops, what was that? I can put in a recording, a media comment. I could say, sorry, I'm not sure that was the best try that you've had. Let's go ahead and give that one another whack. I'm not sure you quite understood the assignment. All right. And I could save that. The student would see it. Or I could even leave just an audio comment. Because sometimes this is a little better of you can get that tone and inflection in there. Be like, oh, look, we've even got the speech to text going. Very nice. So you can say, hey, I really don't think that this was the best idea. Let's try that again. Okay, and it pulls it into my submission box there, whichever, which is nice because once I leave the feedback, especially on something like this, like I said, I could just give them, whatever point value. But because they didn't really put all the effort into it that they should have, I can reassign the assignment to the student. So basically, I can kick it back to them. So if you have somebody who just, turns something in like 2 seconds, you can kick it back and you have to have some comments. You have to have some feedback in there. That's this button down here that says reassign that won't be available until you leave some side of comment, whether it's audio or video. Once you get that, I can reassign it. And the student will see it again on their to-do list, and they'll have to go back and redo it. This way, if you have students that are turning in work that is subpar and either they didn't get it or they're just rushing through it for whatever reason, you have a way to kick it back to them without necessarily penalizing them unless you have to, right? So if you want to give them a second chance to do it again, you'd be like, hey, man, that's not exactly what we had in mind. You have a way to put that back like it was. Of course, when you're done with that, you walk through here. If you click this little drop down, you'll see any students that are graded still need to be graded. And if you have more than one section, you can, if you cross list your courses and that kind of stuff, you can bring those over here, right? Okay, a lot of talking, I know. Everybody's still doing all right. See someone having a little trouble getting in. Looking good. All right, so with all that said and done, let's talk real quickly about a little bit of updates, and then I'm going to turn you loose. So let's talk about these updates real quick, and then I know I've thrown a lot at you. I fed you with from the fire hose, as they say. So then we'll have a little time for Q&A, a little time for some experimentation. So first things first, let's talk about what's new. There's a couple of things, some requests that have come through, and a couple of different things that I think are really going to be helpful for people this year that, as we worked through last year, were super duper evident that we needed. So the first one is if you come down here on the global navigation to the left-hand side, you see where it says help. So I'm going to click on help. And I want you to notice 3 new links that are here. First of all, bold and up top is a link to Incident IQ. If you don't remember how to get there, or whatever the case might be, you can click on help. You can go to Incident IQ right up here. Click on that. That's going to bring you directly to Incident IQ, right? And I can't show you that on my dashboard. But you can come right in here and you can add that stuff in, take you directly there so you can put in a ticket if you need to. The second one, well, I'll skip over that for now. The other thing is the SIS 360. So now there's a link directly inside of Canvas for teachers and for students to go directly to SIS 360. And in here, you can go ahead and check your grades inside of SIS, do your attendance, whatever the case might be. The kids have access to that link as well. So if you say, hey, I need you to go to SIS and check your grades, and they go, how do I get to SIS? They can do it from right there inside of the help menu. Just click on help, SIS 360 right there. And the last thing I want to show you is this one called FC Tech Central. Now, some of you had access or used, everyone had access, but some of you used a spreadsheet that we had last year that had all the different videos and whatnot that we made. It worked for when we needed it, but it was hard to navigate. It was hard to find things. So what we did is we made this course called FC Tech Central. So here inside of FC Tech Central is all the different stuff that we've created throughout last year. All our PowerPoints, all our videos, the webinars from PD days, all that kind of stuff is housed inside of here. And it's broken down by category. So everyone has access to this. You don't have to be invited to it. All you have to do is be logged in with your FC address and it'll be right there for you. So if you open it up, you can see we've got, new to Canvas. We've got that kind of stuff in here. We've got it broken down by elementary and secondary. The elementary folks have a new dashboard this year, so that's why we sort of had to break it out just to keep things from getting too confusing. But you can look over here like, okay, we've got these videos over here. So if you click on one, you can actually play this video right inside of there. Okay, now I will say, if you do play the video, just because of a little bug that's in there, we're trying to get it worked out. If you do play the video, stop it inside of this little box, because if you close it while it's still playing, it'll continue to play in the background. So that's what these little warnings are up here for, just to let you know that. But we've got our slideshows, we've got all that kind of stuff. And we've got it broken down by subject, so we've got Canvas, we've got SIS, we've got WebEx, we've got instructional tech tools like Kahoot, quizzes, and webinars. we've got, you can book an appointment this year with Hannah or myself, depending on who you need. And then you can, of course, submit a work order from here as well. If you're like, I'm not sure where it would be, Scott, not a big deal. We've got a table of contents over here. And with this table of contents, it lists everything. And you can just jump around using these little areas up here. So if I wanted to go to the WebEx part, here's all the WebEx parts, right? And when I'm done, okay, I jump back to the top. Oh, okay, there's that PowerPoint. You can click on that and it'll open up inside of another browser window, right? So everything that you might need to get you started this year is going to be inside of this course. As things update and change, we will, of course, go through here and update and change things as well. So that this should be your one-stop shop. If you're in a bind and there's an issue, come over here and check this, right? And hopefully the answer will be right there if you can't find somebody right now. Also, and you'll learn about this on PD Day as well, we now have people inside of each building, each of the elementary and high schools that will help you. We have, last year we had a designated by Canvas person. This year we sort of expanded it. So instead of it just being a Canvas person, it's going to be a person who knows about Canvas and Flipgrid and whatever the case might be, right? And they're going to be able to help you out, and they're going to be right there in the building. If you can't get a hold of them, put in a ticket, get a hold of Hannah or I, and we'll be able to work through that. Like I said, if you need to, starting when the year begins, you can even come over here and book an appointment with me. This will show up on my calendar as well as yours, so we can spend some time in the building. We'll be in the buildings this year, excuse me, walking around and helping people. So everything that we really wanted to make sure that not only our new teachers, but all the teachers felt like they were being supported and that they have, someone has their back. Because, you know, last year was a year, and I don't think any of us really want to repeat it the way it was. So with that being said, these are some of the ways that we're going to be able to support you throughout the year. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick and start my video, because I do want to let you know that I know this is scheduled for 2 hours, but I want to be respectful of your time. And I also want to give you some time to play around with some stuff. You know, we talked about a lot of things today. If you want to, I'm going to stay right here on the call. So if you want to go ahead, you're like, oh, I want to try something out, see if this is working the way I want it to or whatever, I'll go ahead. I'll keep this going until 3 o'clock. If you have a problem, you should be able to either raise your hand inside of WebEx or just use the chat. Like, you know, that seems to be working just fine. And I'll be able to jump in there and give you a hand. But like I said, I want to be here to support you. So if you want to just play around, or if you have any questions over the next half hour, I'll go ahead and I'll stay live just to help you out. If you feel like you're covered, or you're like, this will get you through until PD Day or whatever the case, I thank you for joining, and I hope you have a great day. Are there any questions before I jump off here completely? And why isn't my chat popped up? Oh, there we go. Oh, there we are. Okay. Okay, it seems like everybody's up to speed. So like I say, go ahead and take this time. I'll stay live. I'm not going to make you stare at my face for half an hour, though. I will go ahead and stop the video and mute myself. But I will be here and available, so just grab my attention if you need me. I will stop recording now, though.